on the podcast, Grant's Rants Hollywood Talk. It's Grant's Rants Small Talk.
Let the rundown continue. We're here back on the podcast talking about day 5 on the Real Housewives Ultimate Girls Trip Ex-Wives Club. And joining me to continue the conversation, Alli Cohen. Welcome back.
Hello, day 5. It feels like day 30.
Doesn't it?
Yes.
Yes, I'm ready for this trip to kind of wrap up. This episode put a bad taste in my mouth. I hate to say it, but it did.
Yeah, I understand why.
Yeah, I feel like we and I talked about this at the beginning of this podcast. The housewives, the current housewives proper, have gotten so dark and so ugly for me and so real that they're trying to like take down each other's husbands, businesses, threaten lives, and now we're getting on this show the death of children and the threat of this and
oh my God,
the suicide references, and it's taken an ugly turn, and I'm not enjoying it as much as I used to. And I really can only blame Dorinda for that.
The reason that it's not fun is because of Dorinda. And it's because we're so interested in being on the show. And by we, I mean, she is. Like, she so badly wants to be off pause. She'll never be off pause, especially this is solidifying her place outside of any housewives, I think, ever again.
Yeah, I think this is showing people who maybe they don't know Dorinda as well as you and I, as far as how we perceived her on the Housewives. This is why she was put on pause. I would imagine it's just she's doing too much. It's not a positive thing, and it's not fun. And I really do believe we're watching like a true narcissist at work here.
Yes.
Unfortunately, the fame has gone to her head. This comes up in the episode, but it's gone to her head, as Jill pointed out.
Yep. Let's get into it.
Yeah, let's do it, because talk about someone full of hot air, a hot air balloon.
Very good.
Hot air balloon opening. What was this? 500 feet off the ground. Don't waste my time. I'm not getting out of bed for that.
Honestly, it is first thing in the morning. And all I could think about was, wow, Vicky's going to be screaming. That's what I thought. But we didn't hear. She wasn't. She was okay. I kind of wish too. It was very nothing.
Remember when she used to do like the retching, remember she used to do that?
I do. And I thought we were going to get that.
I was waiting for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no. Have you ever done a hot air balloon?
No, I don't have a fear of heights. I'd be like Phaedra. I'd be the first one in that basket just to check it out. But it just seemed like, okay, like what is the point of this? We're going up for what, like 5 minutes each. And then just for Dorinda to look at her property. Like, I don't understand what the point of it was.
That really bugged me when she's like, just to see the property that I have done. Like, you inherited this.
Yeah.
This is not your work, your hard work. Weird. Very weird.
I mean, she's made a brand for herself, for the property. There's the maple syrup. There's the bourbon. It's, I mean, all right, I get it. Yes, she has definitely monetized it and made it a profitable piece of land for her. But like, I mean, do we really need to celebrate Bluestone Manor already than we already have?
No, I'm done.
Yeah. Well, that was that. I mean, I don't know what else to say about the whole thing. I mean, Jill Zarin there in Louis Vuitton, in case you missed it. I don't know anyone that could.
Couldn't miss it.
Vicky and Chanel, and I thought of you the other week where you're like, that Chanel top is so ugly. This one, I think even worse.
It's go to the Gap, buy a shirt. It doesn't have to say anything on it. We get it. You have money. Yeah. It's just because it says Chanel doesn't mean it looks good.
Right. Then this whole business comes up about the radio show, a frog pees on Dorinda. The thing that I can't get over the most is Dorinda springs out of bed after being blackout drunk the night before. She's a woman of a certain age. She has no hangover. It makes me really scratch my head in many different ways. What's going on here? And not only that, but she remembers every single point of what was said the night before regarding Jill and Eva's radio show.
That is weird. And I always find it, I never know. I always find it very confusing when no one is terribly hungover, seemingly knows what they said, has zero apologies about it. Yeah. Of course she doesn't. But I really didn't want to get into the radio show anymore. I didn't want to talk about it.
Yeah, I knew it would just take an ugly turn because Dorinda's not going to take any responsibility for this.
Mm-mm.
Basically, Dorinda tells Jill that even Eva thought that she was being thirsty. And Jill very calmly sat there and she said, well, I'd like to hear her opinion. I'd like to hear everyone's opinion. I will say, Jill, not bothered by Dorinda too much in this episode. I
She
don't think they have any relationship.
No, they don't. But Jill, I was kind of proud of her. She's really letting things slide off her back in a way that I would never. I'd be out of that house already. I'd be out.
I'm surprised no one's walked out yet.
It is shocking, but
Yeah.
that just shows they all really, really, really want to be on camera.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, that I think sums it all up. What was I gonna say about that? I had a good point I wanted to add to that. I forgot. But I'm sure I'll get there. Jill basically says she just wanted to support Eva, and that's all she wanted to do. That's all she wanted to get out of it.
Sure, Jill.
Yeah. Dorinda claims that she doesn't have this type of problem with anybody else in the house. Cut to Vicky, Brandi, and Tamra. So that's half the house now.
We have receipts. Again, everything's being recorded. You can't get away with anything. You really cannot tell a lie. And Jill definitely is faced with a lie that she told later. We'll get to it. But there are so many times where they're like, didn't happen. And no, we can roll that all back.
Yeah.
We are recording this, ladies.
Yeah, I would always be careful on these shows to make any sweeping statements. I never said that. That never happened. Because they're going to find something, even if it's like pushing the envelope a little bit into the direction in which they're trying to push the narrative. But they're going to find something that makes you look like an idiot.
And the fact that they never say, well, I probably would have said, I don't remember saying that. I was drunk. I would blame it on being drunk and probably take a step back and look at my drinking. If can you imagine being Dorinda watching the show, because she watches it every single frame, and not saying like, I should probably stop drinking so much.
I think I said this last week. She never looked at her behavior from her last season on the show opposite Tinsley and was like, that's an ugly person. I don't want to be that person. I guess not. She's celebrated for it.
She's celebrating herself.
Yeah. Oh, she's the only one, I think. I mean, if you look at Twitter, she doesn't have any fans left. I don't know. Although I want to give a shout out to my friend Randomly Ronnie Jr. He does also a recap rundown of the RHUGT, the Real Housewives of Twitter. And he's really riding hard for Team Dorinda. So you get a different perspective on that show. So I encourage everyone. He's promoted our show. He's a good friend. So
I want to hear that. I really want to know, because I do like to hear the other sides.
Yeah. I wonder how he'll feel about this episode though, because this is very hard to defend.
Oof. She was the pot calling the kettle thirsty. She was being complete. She's in denial. She has a lack of a sense of responsibility. No one else is allowed to overreact, but she can overreact like nobody else I've ever seen.
It's very much slanted in her bias. The whole experiment, the whole concept. I remember what I was going to say earlier to your point about Jill and things just kind of like she's just letting a lot roll off her back. They had this moment where they had this truce. Jill thinks Dorinda's delivery was really bad and Dorinda thinks Jill overreacted. And then they like get up and they hug. And I'm like, what? This is why I loved Roni, because they would kind of like move on. Where if this was Beverly Hills, this would be the one scene that they would discuss until the reunion part 6. And it would never end. So I really appreciate that, like Jill, for the sake of the day and to be on TV, was like, okay, girl, we're all set.
And maybe they'd bring it up 15 years later too, because that seems to be happening a lot. Yeah. But again, that's
true.
I was sitting there thinking, I would never make a truce after someone treated me so horribly. And even to apologize to her, say, I disrespected you in your home. Look, I don't care where I am. If someone's disrespecting me, if it's in your home, like that's not on me.
See, that's strategy to me. That's Jill saying, I'm the bigger person. I'm the classy chick.
Right.
I'm above, because she keeps saying Dorinda's drunk. It's the alcohol. It's how you behave. It's what you behave on when you're drinking. So she is really like drawing the line between Dorinda and herself and saying, this is the angry drunk and this is classy Upper East Side Jill who's going to sell you a rug. Like,
right. With her face on it.
Yeah. Yeah, with her face on it. That's what's happening here with her big Christian Dior sunglasses. Another moment, classic. What else happened? There's a breakfast situation. Eva says in her one-on-one, not to her face, but she says that Jill is thirsty. I don't know. I mean, I think Jill is
Yeah.
thirsty, but she was also in that moment, I think, just trying to show some form of an interest in Eva's work.
Yeah.
That's how
And
I perceive it.
to Eva's point, I think all of it could have been settled. Dorinda could have stayed out of it. And Eva could have said, look, I'm wearing headphones. You're not going to hear anything. Watching me work's going to be so boring. Don't even worry. No, thank you. And it exploded to the point where we didn't need any of it. And Eva is really too practical for all of this. And I think that's part of the reason she's not on the show anymore. It's not because of her behavior. It's because she just doesn't give us what we need. And that is so much drama. She's like, I'm a mom. I'm working. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. I don't know.
She's good commentary.
She has good commentary.
Yeah. What else happens? So basically, Dorinda leaves the room at this breakfast, and Vicky's really quick to talk about her, calling her a psycho bitch. The psycho bitch came out, and they're talking about this woman in her own house. And I will give credit to Eva, who is like not comfortable with that. Like that's a classy move to be like, I'm not gonna sit here and talk, about this woman when she's in her own house upstairs. So I get that, but
it was classy, but I feel like Eva doesn't see what we all see. I don't know, because
she gives Dorinda a pass.
Yes, because the way that Dorinda's behaving to me is just so unacceptable, pretty unforgivable, and she refuses to take any responsibility. So the fact that she stormed off, like, look, I get it. Don't talk about people if they're not there. I still will probably, but this is Real Housewives. Like, you have to, but
you have to.
I think then she goes up to Dorinda, and Dorinda's like, I just shouldn't care so much. I just care too much. I'm trying to make things so nice, and I just shouldn't. I guess that's my problem.
That's not the problem, Dorinda.
No, the problem is you're nuts and you're treating people like crap.
Yeah. And you're the thirsty one because you're so desperate to be on camera. I'm not saying Jill's not thirsty, but
she is.
Between the two,
many things can be true at once, and many people can be thirsty.
Yeah, good point. Jill feels as though Dorinda has become a monster for becoming famous. She alleges a huge alcohol problem, and again that the fame has gone to her head. I'm just watching the show, so you tell me.
I don't disagree with those statements.
Yeah. Dorinda tells Eva, like you said, she cares too much. No accountability, just like you said. Now, Dorinda thinks that Jill is mad at her for not putting her on the show. And there's a flashback later to an old episode of Roni, which was, I don't know. I can't figure this out. I don't know. But can we just call a spade a spade? They both want to be on the show.
Yeah. And why can't they admit that? Why can't they just be like, yeah, I really want to be on the show? But they're like, no, that's not what I say. Yes.
Yeah, please. Yeah, the whole thing was ridiculous. Then we go after all that from last night, all this to go day drinking in an alley.
Yep.
That was on the itinerary, and they were going whether they wanted to or not.
I wanted to get out. I wanted out
the same way. I was ready to go. I was like Taylor with like the handbag, like at the door, like, please tell me we're leaving. And they're like, oh no, it's in the backyard. The hot air balloon's right here. And she's like,
oh, we have to stay here. But then Tamara said, we're leaving Menopause Manor, which I did get a little chuckle out of. I thought that was cute. And I was excited for them to go somewhere so I could listen to them order lunch and not have to, sit around in the old mansion.
Yeah, a lot of old places.
Mm-hmm.
So Vicky talks about Steve, and she would have been Steve's fourth wife. And Brooks comes up, the sexual chemistry they had. Brooks, I thought Brooks was long Housewives dead.
He's clearly not. And then we had to watch a scene with him and David Bador, and it's like,
I did not need that.
Ghouls. We don't need to see him again. But
no. The show is too long for this. We don't need these flashbacks. We don't like that. Like that was I believe that she was with Brooks.
Yes, we know. And we know that they were real into each other.
Yeah. Well, put out the torches because we're heading to the pool, whether these women want to or not. because Dorinda already said twice, I hated the pool. The pool's heated. You have to go in. We're gonna go into the pool. But we should all do that next. Like, they don't have a choice.
No, that's what they're doing. And if you don't, she's gonna be mad at you. So do it.
Yeah. Yeah, you better go.
And
Put
it's
on
money.
a
She spent
cover
money.
up.
She hasn't heated the pool in years because it's so expensive. You know what? Either be rich or don't be rich. Like,
Yeah. And also, like, you're getting paid a locations fee to use this house for the show.
ooh, good
Production's
point.
going to pay. You don't think production's paying the electric bill for Bluestone Manor for that month that they were there, however long, from beginning to end?
And I was thinking about it too.
Well, I guess maybe there's generators on site that they rolled in, but I mean, like, come on, they're not. She's not. Paying
She's
that
fine.
electric bill.
She'll be fine. If they could bring a hot air balloon so she could admire her property, she can heat the pool for a few hours.
Good point.
And I can't stand how she acts like everything costs so much money, or that she is so put out to have food in the room. She doesn't want mice. Like, you have a staff. You have a full-time staff. Who cares? Like, vacuum.
I know it's not class with the Countess. Like, this really doesn't need to be this, like, over the top with her, with all these, like, oh my God, I rolled out the red carpet for you.
No, you didn't.
This
You don't let me
ultimate
do
hostess.
anything.
I don't see her doing anything.
No.
What else is happening here? Oh my God. Jill's mom is not a fan of Dorinda.
I like Jill's mom.
Gary sends flowers and an apple. Jill thought they were originally from Dorinda.
That really freaked me out. I was like, she's so obsessed with what happened the night before. She cannot get over it. She keeps saying, did you see what happened to me? Did you see what happened to me? Oh, are they from Dorinda? Of course they're not from Dorinda. And remember, you have a boyfriend, Gary. But B, like, she's not apologizing to you. She doesn't think she did anything wrong.
Right.
It's very strange that was her first thought.
Send her flowers in her own house for that. Now, Jill claims at this point in the episode, she only wants to be a friend of. That to me is like a line that I've heard a lot of former housewives say, that they don't want to be in the thick of the drama. They did that, but they still want to be around. I don't know. I think I'd have more respect for her if she was like, yeah, no, I mean, I'll take what I'm interested in, all opportunities. That was a good time in my life and I'd like to do it again.
I want to know why. Like, why would you want to be a friend of? Is it for the paycheck? Is it just because you want to be on TV? Is it to talk about all of your products? Why? I would love to know. A friend of it's for trial runs. We've already seen you. We don't need you anymore. Like, on Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, Teddy's gone and yet they keep just showing her face. It's not fun to be a friend of, it seems like. I don't understand, except that she really just wants people to see her face on television.
Yeah, that's it. Just so she doesn't have to put former New York City housewife in front of her.
She wants to still be in the fray.
So Brandi feels like Dorinda and Jill are glossing over this whole situation, the confrontation, everything that happened. And she feels, this is Brandi's opinion, that if Jill makes up with Dorinda, then they'll both be able to go back on the show together.
I think it's a pretty good point. Once again,
I trust Brandi's opinion because Brandi watches these shows. The other women don't. She's an actual Housewives fan. She knows how it works from the inside. So I think that could be a strategy. I don't know if it's the truth, but it could be a strategy.
I don't think it's not a hope and a wish. Like, that's why I think, maybe if I'm thinking about it now, that's why Jill's apologizing. She's like, okay, if we can just be cool with one another, maybe one of us or both of us can get back on the show. Let's like scratch each other's back. Let's do this. And so she's playing really, really nice. But otherwise, like, I would send my mom, Gloria, to tell Dorinda off. You don't mess with the Jewish mother. You do not mess with the Jewish mother. Trust me.
Now there's a surprise. have Gloria show up at the last dinner.
I would actually, I would love that. I would love it so much.
Now there's a season finale for you. Sure, have Jill get revenge on Dorinda for not having her have enough airtime at that costume party or whatever the hell.
Her mom coming in and yelling. I like that and I want it.
I always like an added element. Like mixing a new person in.
Mhm.
Like, I think these Housewives shows would be really good if they added somebody in like the middle. Then they had to catch up on things, and they didn't have the whole story on like Brandi and why she called someone the C word or whatever. Like, they don't really know what's going on so much. So
Right.
it's like they're kind of playing catch up, and it's like a mess, and they have their own alliances. Like, I would be really into that. So like a reverse elimination show where you end
Ooh.
with more Housewives.
I think that's a good idea. And I
shouldn't
want to
put
see
it
it.
out there because then who the card reader over there will grab some part of it and
Hey, maybe you can be an EP. It's your idea.
no,
Saying it
yeah,
here,
right.
here right now, saying it. Grant thought of it.
I would love to figure out some new way to revitalize these shows because a lot of them are stale and overproduced. So
That's right.
put that
And-
on a card and read it.
And we're thinking way too much about being in the show. I miss the days of Bethany standing in a supermarket trying to sell her cupcakes or whatever, and
Yes.
no one buying. Like, I'm so sick of these women being celebrities off the bat. I don't like it anymore.
And if you notice, whenever these women on this show in particular go out, we saw it at the Red Lion Inn, we saw it in this alleyway, they set up a card table and they're always by themselves. I'm sure it has to do with COVID protocols, but it's like, yeah, it's like they're so othered. They're like, in the past, at OC, they used to sit at Javier's in the middle of Irvine Spectrum and like with the masses and shoot a scene. Now it's
Right.
like, now it's literally like a scene, like from a TV show, like a set. Like
We were
they
whooping
lock
it up at
down, they add
Andale's.
lights, like it's fake.
We want to be part of the commoners. We need to be. We need to feel like they're real housewives.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Thank you.
The Red Lion Inn. Dorinda orders a dirty martini before she even sits down.
Yeah.
And she does her whole server shtick. Was it cute?
No.
No, I don't think so.
It wasn't.
We already like did this on Roni, so it's not as kitschy. It's like we know. And by the way, the side note, that Red Lion Inn did not look anything like that would appeal to me at all.
Yeah.
I agree with Vicky. Old, everything old.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah,
mind.
me
It's,
too.
it's in Great Barrington. It is old. I think there is a charm to it that I'm fine with. I don't know if that's where I want to be when I'm watching television. Like, I'd go there and I'd have a drink, I'd have something to eat. They don't have blue cheese, which I'm fine with. But, bring a, what? I'm kind of on Vicky's side in the whoop it up factor of everything. I'm like, let's do that. Like, let's get out. Let's go somewhere fun.
I agree. That place looked like an old museum. I don't think that would be for me.
No.
But what else happens over here? Oh, here we go. A producer told Brandi to ask Vicky about a threesome she had years ago. And I'm convinced that is fact to me.
Yeah.
Brandi's not asking that. Why would she ask Vicky Gunvalson about a scene that we all watched from season 8 years ago?
Yeah.
OC Housewives.
Well, this was the moment where, like, let's bring up old stuff because
Ugh.
we start bringing up a lot of old stuff that, like, let's get a new situation brewing. We need something brand new.
Well, Dorinda proposes a question. We've talked about that on this podcast, another trope. So now here's the question, which was only an excuse to talk about herself. She wants to know, what disappointed you the most about being a reality star? For me, it was being put on pause. That was just, I'm just going to talk about myself right now. That actually isn't a question. It's it's just an opportunity for me to mention that, again, I am on pause. And I didn't ask for the reason why, because I know that I deliver. Unlike you, Vicky, who just, you sleep all day.
And meanwhile, I did like the editors being like, you took this nap, you took this nap, you took this nap, you took this nap. She is just so despicable. And also reality star, come on, let's call it what it is. You're a real housewife. Like,
Well, some of them refer to each other as icons, so I'm not really surprised that they call
That's
each other
true.
a star. I think it's gross either way.
Yes.
Yeah. Dorinda, again, so dedicated, but Vicky with the naps she is the issue. So now it all turns on Vicky. Vicky thinks that 8 days is a long time. I'm telling her, I agree. 8 days is a long time to go away, to stay in somebody else's house.
Right.
That term, like, even after a few days, fish stinks. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
8 days as a house guest, not in your own bed, your own bathroom. I'm ready to go.
And
I'm
you're
good
not
for
in a-
maybe 2 nights in a situation like that.
You're not at a luxury resort where, by the way, you get room service. Like, you can do whatever you want. You're following Dorinda's rules. I was chatting with my friend today about this because you brought this up in the first episode, home court advantage. And I'm like, no one's going to pay attention to Dorinda. I will say right now, I was completely wrong because I could admit that I'm wrong, unlike Dorinda. But yeah, no, she is so keen on being in control because it's her house. And she just kept saying, my house, my house, my house. I wouldn't want to be there for 8 days either. And then Vicky also, she was broken up with, she was sick. Once again, like she didn't come in a good headspace. And I think she's shown me thus far, she can be pretty fun when she's feeling good.
Mhm.
But then Dorinda has to be so horrible to her and just say like, why would you're being so negative. You're being negative.
Yeah, she calls her a victim. She actually barks at her. You need to be present. Like it's too bossy. She's really asserted herself above these women, and I don't think it's right. But next, right after that exchange, then she goes in on Jill. Now she turns to Jill, slurring her words, a total mess, going on and on about the radio show. You know, the thing was a mess. She said, you remember working, right? Like 8 years ago.
I have that written down too. That was the meanest thing she said. And
that's cutting for Jill.
Ooh, it was, but it's also like, you're not working either, babe. You're not doing anything.
Good point. I thought the same thing. I'm like, you're both sitting on the same show, Ex-Wives Club.
Hello.
Yeah. So I thought that was ridiculous. This Dorinda thing with this put on pause is I'm beginning to really think it's total bullshit. And I thought it was bullshit at the time that Andy would even play around like that, like such a clown game to do. You know, like we're gonna keep you on contract, but we're not gonna play you. Is that what it is? Like it was such a stupid move in general. But there were still now like 2-3 years in, still to want this on pause.
No, you're done. She needs to stop trying to make fetch happen.
She, after this show, I think should be done, and we're gonna get into the real low blows. But like,
oof,
I was excited for her, and it is dipped like the stock market for me. I mean, my interest in her is like low. At this
I
point.
really used
and it's
to
really
like her.
unfortunate.
Yeah, and she said I was on a show you're no longer on.
Gross.
You're not on it either. Like, what am I missing? Because you're not on pause. I feel crazy.
Jill distances herself from Dorinda. I noticed she basically says, you know, she was only seeing the show, and that's what it's all about. It comes down to the show, and then Dorinda tells her, "You ruined the night." So that to me would be, all right, I'm leaving. I don't need to sit here. I don't need this free dinner to be assaulted verbally by you, to be insulted by you. I didn't ruin anything. Jill, as she pointed out, she doesn't even drink.
Right. She's not the one being insane.
I don't want to come across as total Jill, like cheerleaders either.
No.
You know what I mean on this show? Like, because I genuinely felt bad for her in this episode, but like how much of that was, I mean, she's still a fool, but I enjoy her. But I mean, I guess if you had to choose between the two, I would Jill. I can relate more to Jill. Yeah. Then believe me, I have been away where I have been the odd man out, the fifth, the seventh wheel.
Sure.
I know what it's like to not have anyone in your corner. And, you know, you have to kind of sit there and how you react dictates everything, because you know they're all going to talk about you the minute you leave the room.
Yes. And so
she is playing it correct.
She's being the classy one. You're absolutely right. And I think I felt that way too. I've been the odd person out, and you have to act cool. And she's acting very cool. But then they bring up Bobby's funeral. And did I think that was the right choice that they were no, I think it is ghoulish and strange.
Yeah.
And she's like, I would never, ever bring cameras to Bobby's funeral. Outside, sure. And yeah, that's what we did. Wow.
Yeah. Outside, yes. Inside, never. That's like a technicality like that. I was believing Jill until they like went a little deeper on that. And I was like, ooh, that doesn't look right.
I wasn't CC'd on the email. That was my assistant.
That was her way out. Okay. Yeah. So then again, I'm saying this as if it's fact because I believe it is. A producer then told Taylor to ask Brandi about Adrienne Malouf's surrogate from 9 years ago. Like this was the stupidest moment of the episode for me.
Yeah.
Taylor going off on the surrogate thing from the past to Brandi. This was someone in her ear. Why would
Yeah.
Taylor care? She claims she has all this unfinished business and all this pent up tension.
Right.
Not if you live a good life. If you have
Mm.
moved on and 9 years have passed and you're happy with your new marriage, I would not be worried about Adrienne Maloof.
Yeah, who cares? But I wonder, I had a few thoughts. I'm like, yes, maybe, probably a producer. I think you're right. However, I wonder if she went into this saying at some point, I'm going to bring this up because I still feel upset about it, which by the way, was it a very screwed up thing to do? Yeah, it was not cool. I mean,
But was
I
it
don't
any
know
of
what
her business?
it
Like as
wasn't.
Tamara said, like I don't
No,
think
it wasn't.
was.
It wasn't her business. I think, I don't know why. It's not my business either. And I shouldn't even really be talking about it, but since it's on TV, I am. I don't know why it's such a big deal that she used a surrogate. That's again, like I've never been through any of those situations, but I don't know. It just seemed like not a huge reveal. But again, if her kids didn't know anyway, yeah, I can't imagine anyone cares anymore. I think it was a real strange thing to bring up, but it did lead us to many strange places.
Oh, that's putting it mildly. I agree. Yes, it definitely jumped off from there. Brandi, yeah, Brandi says she and Adrienne are cool. I don't think Adrienne's friendly. I don't think she considers Brandi a friend. I think that she tolerates her, but
Yeah, probably.
that's probably it. Vicky thinks that they should stop living and looking at the past, which I'm like, yes, I agree. That's not going to go anywhere in a good way. Then we go back to the season 1 of Beverly Hills. Those are the classy ladies. Those are the successful ladies.
Right.
And then
Classy, very.
Taylor clearly has no idea how to fight. Is talking about like a cinnamon stick and jumping into water and like trying to like pat herself and the other woman on the back. That even Phaedra was like, this is so petty. Like I can't.
Do you think Taylor wrote something down, said, I'm going to say something about a cinnamon stick and a successful pot of water, and then she like mixed it up in her head so it didn't come out?
So because
Yeah.
a Critics' Choice Award was thrown in there.
Wow.
Like that was someone came prepared or not prepared.
She had notes. She had notes, and I think they got smudged.
Yeah, they got wet.
Yeah.
That's what I'm gonna say.
In the pool, by the pool.
Yeah. I think a producer lit a fire under Taylor's ass in this moment because she was with the finger again across the table at Brandi. Yeah, that energy. And it was just like, why are we doing this? You guys already had your moments. I don't know why this is being resurrected other than, hey, this is what we're going to do. The moment for me with Taylor was cringe. Brandi held her own. We're not, I don't think I won't put words in your mouth, but I'm not endorsing, that Brandi's behavior was correct.
No.
9 years ago, but also like again, like Jill said, like, this is some old,
let it go. Yeah. We don't care anymore. We've gotten past this.
Adrienne Maloof is a millionaire, like 10
she's
times
fine
over. Like,
she's 1,000% okay.
Yeah, she's fine. The whole thing is ridiculous. Brandi thinks that Taylor is acting like Jill and Dorinda in that moment. And then Dorinda hears her name and she like leaps across the table, basically saying that, she's Brandi only shows up to one night stands. So a slut shame, a classic boomer move would be to slut shame someone.
Very good point. Yep. Yeah. And also she said you're on every show. I don't remember what shows has she been on. She was on Vanderpump Rules for a second.
Brandi did do a lot of reality TV, but that's her career.
Right. Her Big Brother.
She did do, Celebrity Big Brother, Celebrity Apprentice. She did the Marriage Boot Camp show. Like, yeah, she's been around, but she said this in the past, like, that's how she feeds her kids. Like, that's her career. Like,
yeah, what else is she
a model? She's not going to go, like, get her CNA license at this point. Like, that's just what she does. And, it's because she makes damn good TV, to be honest. I'd say it's a good thing that Brandi is on this show. And, Dorinda's got a show with Brandi on it. So people are going to watch. Who was she
on Marriage Boot Camp with?
Actually, it was Family Therapy. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Family Therapy with her father and opposite Renee Graziano from Housewives. One of my all-time favorites.
Oh, that was explosive. I'm sure I need to check that out. That sounds like some TV I'd like to watch.
I live for Renee Graziano and I just cannot get enough of her and I wish she'd be back on my TV. What a mess. Just a mess for M to the S. What else happened over here? A lot. Brandi goes low. She says, well, was the season successful when you, and then the audio goes out.
They cut it out, which they should have. I'm glad they did. I think that's disgusting. She's a fool.
Yeah.
I
think we can infer something involved shooting. You know what I mean? We know that Taylor's husband, died from suicide. So
that's what she was saying. Yes.
Yeah. Probably not very eloquent way.
No.
Yeah. So, okay, that was definitely a low blow. I'm not defending Brandi for that.
No.
She fired back. Even Phaedra was like, if you're going to throw shade at Brandi, she's going to come at you with fire or something like that. I hate to use the word bullets because I don't like talking about guns.
100%. But she's right. If you are going to come at her, she's going to say some things that no one in their right mind would ever say because that's who she is. And I think it was horrendous, despicable, all the worst things. I wasn't shocked.
Yeah. Brandi walks away. She doesn't regret saying it at all. So, Brandi definitely owns what she says. And then she returns to the table. Now we've got drunk Dorinda. She can't even string a sentence together. There's no breaks in between the words. She is just absolute total drunk Dorinda. It's not even cute. It's not even funny. She puts her fingers in Brandi's face and then threatens her. How about if your son died? Now, we know from watching Brandi in the past that
you don't do that.
Do not bring up her kids, her babies, as she calls them. This was so crossing the line.
It was, and also had nothing to do about anything. It's such a different, it's 0 point. There's no point made. It was her, I mean, not to repeat, but Taylor's abusive husband committed suicide. It was horrendous and just horrible for everyone involved. I feel terrible for Taylor over and over again. Every time I see her, I just think about it and it makes me really upset. I can't imagine how she feels. None of my business. But that has nothing to do with Brandi's children. And we should never compare those things. It makes no sense. And Dorinda needs to go away. I'm so sick of her. I'm done with her.
I'm trying to follow the logic of okay, so she's trying to show if somebody close in your family died, why that would be upsetting. I just don't get why to bring kids into it. It's just a low blow. And I watched this episode and I may have, maybe taken it too far in my mind, but I was like, how is this woman not canceled after this episode?
Completely.
We've watched a steady escalation of really bad behavior. Now they're bringing in children and throwing it in someone's face that they could die. That as an example for a petty fight from something that happened years ago. The whole thing is just so wrong and put such a bad taste in my mouth with this show. And this is not why I started this podcast series for recapping it. This is not why I decided to watch it. I watched it to escape these dark moments on these shows because
we're supposed to have fun.
Too much.
We need to have fun.
An escape.
And to Brandi's credit, once again, she did completely everything wrong. But instead of beating the shit out of Dorinda, which I probably would have done, although, I mean, look, everything was wrong in this whole thing, but she walked away, went to the bar, said, give me vodka now. The bartender said right away, liked him a ton, thought he was great. Killed, took a minute, took a breath.
Self-control, unlike Dorinda, who had none. And then Dorinda got in her face. I could not believe it. Brandi had fire in her eyes at that moment. I don't know how she didn't lay hands because
she was being separated. She's being separated.
Yeah.
And Phaedra, I love that Phaedra says she was great. She's been great and funny, but she was like,
so good on this.
These are just wealthy women talking about rumors. I'm like, you just defined Real Housewives. What do you think we're watching?
Yeah, Dorinda said in Brandi's face, you made a mockery of people dying. Well, both of them are wrong here, but the fact that you brought up someone's potentially, a slain child is hard. I mean, so there's no winner here.
No. But she could have said, and we know that analogies do not work on these shows. We learned it from Jersey. You can't do it. She could have said, what if something like that had happened to you? How would you feel if someone said something? She could have first of all, stay out of it, Dorinda. This isn't your fight.
Right.
But if you want to try to have a teaching session, like, which you're not going to do. But Brandi was about to just be like, you're right, this is wrong. Cause she's like, I love you so much, Brandi. And then she said that, and Brandi was about to lose it.
That to me is something you don't come back from. I don't need those types of people in my lives. Dorinda showed exactly who she is in that moment. Brandi is the same wacko that she's always been, and it's just like a mess. I don't think they can move on from this.
No.
I personally would not want to on either side. And if I were Taylor, I wouldn't want to be bothered with Brandi. If I were Dorinda, I wouldn't want to be bothered with any of them, especially Brandi. And if I were Brandi, I would leave. I'd say, you know what?
She should leave.
That is a bridge too far for me. You know, I'm here. This is a job for me. You don't need to bring my kids into this. Like that's grounds for walking out.
And she said enough stupid things. She digs her own grave a lot of the time. But yeah, I think I'd be absolutely done, because how are we going to come back from this? I can't see it happening.
And I'm wondering, because the end of the episode is they're leaving the Red Lion Inn, but like we don't have Housewives After Dark. We don't see them going to bed. Vicky's not choking on a pill. So like, are we picking this back up at the house? Because we know they got an extension on this show by I think an extra episode.
They did. I had not heard this.
I heard it was supposed to be 7 and they made it 8.
Okay.
Could be wrong. So I'm wondering, like, when they go back to Murder Manor over there.
Oh my God.
And, you know, Dorinda opens up 6 bottles of vodka, and then what's going to happen? So I don't know what time it is. They stopped showing the timestamp. So it was an inopportune time to stop showing us timestamps, because now we need to know where we are, because I don't know. Yes, I agree. I'm going to keep watching. I'm going to keep doing the rundown for as long as we have the show. But this week showed me why I took a break from Housewives. But there were still moments of gold in here, thanks to Phaedra Parks, thanks to Tamra. You know, I enjoyed Jill in this episode partially. You know, Brandi is showing us why she is an all-star, and Dorinda is showing us why she is no longer on television.
Why she's on pause forever. But, and I think we can bring this up as being the best part of the entire episode, because it really gave me such a laugh.
Is this your final thought?
Final thoughts.
Yes, my final thought. When Phaedra says to Brandi, she could be your mama, and Brandi says, she's only 5 years older than me. And Phaedra's like, oh shit, okay, sorry. The bartender loved it. Jill loved it. I loved it. It
cut the tension with a knife. Yeah.
Everyone was dying laughing. And that's why we keep watching these things, for these little nuggets of happiness.
Yeah.
We have such darkness, and then suddenly somebody will say something that just cracks me up.
The absurdity is why I watch these shows in the
Correct.
past. Watched, you know, I'm not seeing it as much. I'm not seeing, you know, that's why when Phaedra was switching out her wig, loved that. Like that was such a funny moment for me. That's the type of stuff that I like to see, is like the goof. And like on Atlanta, when they would, you know, Sheree and Nene would go after each other with all cosmetic looks. You need to get your teeth fixed, like all that type of stuff. Like I love that stuff. Now we're talking about dead children is just, it's where do we go from here? It's horrendous.
Is this rock bottom? I hope so.
I don't know. Just when you think they go low,
they go lower. Yeah.
So I don't know. My final thought is Dorinda once again being shady towards anyone who doesn't want to go with her plans. Brandi said she was not comfortable going up in the hot air balloon, and when they go out, Brandi says, "Oh, it looks like it's like not enough air in it." And then Dorinda says to her, "Well, you're not going up, girl, anyway. So what do you care?" Like she's so bitter if these plans are not carried out when everyone is there to show up. Or we saw it again with Vicky this week, and the pool had to be heated, like you mentioned. They all had to go into it. And it's too much of all of this.
She is cruel.
That's my final thought. I'm tired of this being the Dorinda hour.
Cruel. That's a personality trait. That's not just new. This is something that has been simmering. We're finally seeing, I think, who she truly is. And that is just an awful human being.
Yeah. Last thing I'll say is there was a meme, and it was on Twitter, and it was a picture of Brandi, and it said the TV villain. And then there's a picture of Dorinda, and it said the actual villain.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not here just to, you know, poop on Dorinda the whole time, but we are commenting on what we are given, and I don't like what I'm seeing from her. So,
and by the way, am I excited to watch next week? I really am. I want to see what happens from here.
I want to see where we pick up.
Exactly.
On that note, thank you guys for listening to the podcast. If you're listening and you want to see the video version of us, you can see us on a low quality Zoom video on YouTube.
Woo!
And if you're listening on or watching along, you can always find us on the podcast, Grants Rants Hollywood Talk. My thanks to Alli Cohen, and we'll be back with more RHUGT Rundown.
Thank you. Bye.
This has been Grant's Rants Small Talk. Want more? Join the full conversation on Grant's Rants Hollywood Talk podcast.